Welcome back. eSIM Studios podcast live stream, episode number 208. Is it? Damn, I'm always forgetting the, I think it's 208, 209. Let me check here. Got to be correct. Episode number 208. On this Wednesday afternoon, it's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. As I mentioned, on this Wednesday afternoon, this week is flying by. When you are very busy, boy, does the time fly. Went to bed early last night, which not common. Went to bed early, woke up early, got a lot done. So it's funny how that works out, right? I typically fall asleep like around 2 or 3 in the morning. Last night, I think I went to sleep around midnight. So I'm making small improvements. I'm trying to go to bed a little earlier so I can wake up a little earlier. But nonetheless, that's besides the point. I want to thank you for joining me today. Got a lot of news to go through. So I was going through the news, the tech news. There's a lot of stuff. So we're not going to focus heavily on one topic. I literally have like 6 things I want to get to. So we're going to kind of fly through this stuff today. If you miss any part, since we are going to fly through the news, if I'm trying to hurry because I'm trying to go pick up an iPhone, but it's probably going to be gone by the time I finish this, but it is what it is. I'll just try again tomorrow. If you miss any one of these news stories, and you can tell how I'm in a hurry by the thumbnail, it's probably the worst one I've made. I'll probably remake a thumbnail and re-upload it once this is over. But anyways, trying to fly through this so I can go get an iPhone that I found in stock, but because if I just left the house, I wouldn't be able to get to an episode today. So the podcast is way more important than an iPhone, but I will try again if it's sold out tomorrow. Appreciate everybody joining us. So if you do miss one of these news stories that we're going to discuss, you can always, I'm streaming across multiple platforms. You can always go to YouTube, type in the search box eSIM Studios, and we will pop up. eSIM Studios podcast, eSIM Studios, what have you, will show up. You can even Google eSIM Studios. We'll populate the whole page. We've kind of cornered that term, eSIM Studios. And if you want to take us on the go, you're running errands around town, or you're on a road trip, you can always listen to the audio form on Apple Podcasts, on where are we? Spotify, Samsung Podcast, iHeartRadio app, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. We're all over the place. So whatever platform you're on, simply search eSIM Studios. We will pop up. Okay. Let me clear my throat and we will... Allergies are bad. Let me clear my throat and then we'll jump into the news. All right, we're back. So let me go ahead and share the screen and show you what I got. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 topics. Lord have mercy. All right, so let's get into it, right? So we'll start what's on the screen, right? So I mentioned the other day that Apple is getting ready to... So they not only launched the new iPhone 16 series, but it also looks like Apple's getting ready to launch a new iPhone SE. Last one was 2020. SE3 was 2022. So they're long overdue for a new iPhone SE. Now, this one's going to be different than the previous models. This one's going to look similar to an iPhone 16 minus one camera on the back. You can, if you're looking at the screen, you're looking at the new iPhone SE, SE4. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 2024, 2025. We'll get into that shortly. But it looks very similar to the iPhone 16. In the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max have the 3 cameras on the back. iPhone 16 and 16 Plus have those 2 cameras on the back. This iPhone SE4 just going to have 1 camera on the back, following similar history of that design, right? The iPhone SE, every model they've put out has only had 1 camera. again, it essentially looks like an iPhone 16 with just one camera. Now it will be smaller. It's not going to have the physical home button anymore. And we don't know if it's going to have the camera, the physical camera button on the side. I doubt it. It's going to be cheaper, trying to be in that sub 500 range, maybe 449, maybe 499. But I doubt they're going to put that dedicated camera button on the side. And it's for sure going to have a 60 hertz display. But it should have the Apple A18 CPU, which we'll get into shortly, because it looks like there's a little more of a difference than meets the eye to the Apple A18 Pro versus the base A18. It's more of a difference than we originally thought. We originally thought the Pro is just an overclocked model, and the base A18 CPU that's in the base model iPhone 16s appear to be different schematics. So it looks like this will have a A18 in there, non-Pro. Now, it will be launching. If you're wondering, will it have the Apple AI on there? Yes. So this new SE4 will be launching with Apple Intelligence. So that means it's going to have, at the very least, it's going to have the new Apple A18 CPU. At the very least, it's going to have 8 gigs of RAM. Well, I wouldn't expect any more, but if you're running Apple AI, that was the very base minimum that Apple would put on their phones. Even the non-pros this year run the AI model, or will run the AI model whenever it's released. So if this is expecting to run the AI stuff, it's going to have the A18 CPU, not the Pro, the regular. It's going to have 8 gigs of RAM. It's going to have one camera on the back. It's going to have 60 hertz display. But if you want a cheap, well, I'm not cheap, but less expensive iPhone, but still get in on the game on this Apple AI stuff, this iPhone looks like it might be the one for you. Now, the screen size is probably going to be a 6.1 to 6.3. I'm assuming 6.1, since the 6.3 is designed basically for the Pro model. But you were looking at a launch in early next year, so it looks like it will be launched early 2025, which is coming actually right around the corner. So theoretically, we're looking at it being released in 4 or 5 months. So it'll be here quick, right around the corner. So if you were one of the people that did not order an iPhone 16 series when they were announced just a couple weeks ago, but you're still looking to get something new, you just don't want to spend that much money, this one could be the phone for you. Very well could be. They're going to sell you. They're going to sell a gazillion of these. I can promise you that. So just know that a new iPhone SE is right around the corner. This is the official look, official renderings of the iPhone SE. Now let's get into that CPU, right? So the CPU that I mentioned earlier, Apple's A18 Pro, the one that's in the Pro 16 Pro and Pro Max, the die size, meaning its foundation size, I guess is the best way to put it in layman's terms, is only slightly bigger than the A17 Pro. So closer analysis of this A18 Pro reveals a bigger SLC cache than the A18, plus more differences. So again, as we look a little more into it, you see the schematics. We're finding out there's more of a difference than we initially thought between the A18 Pro CPU that's in the 16 Pro and Pro Max and the stock A18 CPU that's in the 16 and 16 Plus. So a die shot comparison of the A18 and A18 Pro was revealed yesterday, making it the first time that Apple's second generation 3 nanometer chipsets powering the iPhone 16 models were examined with a closer eye. Now, unfortunately, lack of identification meant that we could not decipher which component was present on which part of the two SoCs. So it's difficult to conclude the exact differences between them. But thankfully, we got a closer look at the A18 and A18 Pro, revealing their physical die size measurements and so much more. Now, let me click on this link and see if it brings up the actual photos. There's that shows a new comparison that reveals that the A18 may not be based on the A18 Pro. Both units could be entirely different architecture. That's what I'm getting at. Deeper inspection by High Yield reveals that the A18 Pro has a 105 millimeter die size, while the A18 measures only 90 millimeters. So you're looking at a 105 die versus a 90 millimeter die. The bigger die allows Apple to add a larger SLC cache and an additional GPU core, which you can clearly see in the comparison. Most of you know or might not know that the bigger cache can result in improved performance, which is why in some benchmarks the A18 Pro has the upper hand despite featuring the same CPU clusters than the A18, only being separated by a single GPU core. So it does look like they are slightly more different than we initially first thought. Let me see if I can pull this photo up. Here we go. Where are we at? Here we go. So here's the picture. Is that being seen? Okay, good. So here's the picture. A18 front side die shot, A18 back side die shot. So this is in the 16 and 16 Plus and probably the SE4. Now let's look at the Pro. So here's the A18 Pro die side front shot and A18 Pro back side die shot. As you can tell, it's kind of hard to tell since I have to scroll up and down and they're not side by side. From the naked eye, it looks fairly similar, but the measurements are different, right? So could mean that they are, one is just slightly bigger than the other, and that the difference is more than just one GPU core. Because in the initial launch, that's basically what Apple was displaying and showing all of us, that the A18 Pro, obviously a Pro variant, and having one more GPU core, but that's what this report is showing us, that that's not entirely true, that one GPU core does not separate, that is not the difference between the two CPUs. One is actually sitting on a bigger foundation, right? So they're actually two separate CPUs, not just the same CPU minus one core. So that's basically, in layman's terms, what we found out this morning. So I'm going to link everything down below. So if you want to dive into it a little more in depth, you certainly can. But let's roll on here, and I got a quite few more stories to discuss. So speaking of CPUs, check this out. Dimensity 9400, the new MediaTek CPU, Dimensity 9400 is reportedly 20% cheaper than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. New estimates suggest it's nearly the same price as the 8 Gen 3. So why is that making news? Well, in my opinion, it's not identically the same performance, right? But it's pretty close. In fact, there's some benchmarks that are out there that show the Dimensity 9400 slightly beating the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 in some testing, right? Kind of goes back and forth. But one major difference is that it's considerably cheaper. I would like to see this CPU. I would like to see more companies start using MediaTek CPUs. I've mentioned in the past I've used one or two, and I'm really satisfied with those CPUs. I've been very happy with them. Give me 1 second. There we go. Sorry, I lost the audio in my ear. Now, that could play a difference. Now, if you're in this is another idea that it's an unfortunate realization that if the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 is 20% more expensive than the 8 Gen 3, if it costs the manufacturers more per part, meaning per device, if they have to pay Qualcomm 20% more per 8 Gen 4 CPU, the companies, Samsung, OnePlus, is probably going to pass that 20% increase to you, which means higher prices once again for the 2025 flagship models, Android models that are going to be rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. I doubt these companies will keep the prices the same and eat that 20% increase, because all of these companies all have numbers they have to hit every year. They all have goals as far as earnings that they want to hit every year, as far as revenue that they need to hit every year, as far as units sold every year. And now, obviously, increasing the price might change some people's mind, but I doubt we're going to see the same prices. Now, 20% higher, not on the overall cost of the device, just 20% higher on that specific part. I think you know what? Let's look that up on the fly. How much per CPU are these companies paying? So, like, for one CPU that's inside this phone, how much would Google pay for? I think it's $40. Let's see. Cost of a single Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 CPU per device. Oh, wow. I was way off. So, now I'm getting two. So, Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 orders. It says, estimated cost per unit of the 8 Gen 4 could reach up to $240. Wow, that was way higher than I thought. And now here's another report. A single Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 CPU is estimated to cost around $190. Okay, that's the more updated price. The first figure I gave you of $240 was back in early July. This new report is last month. Okay, so if it costs $190 per 8 Gen 4, 20% more, so it would be 19, let's see, 10% would be $19, 38 for 20%, so 30, so it would be 190 minus 38. So the 8 Gen 3 was $152 per CPU, and the 8 Gen 4 is going to be $190 per CPU. That means if the new Dimensity 9400 CPU is going to be the same price as the 8 Gen 3, it's $152. So you're going to see that $38 increase possibly hit your pockets, right? They're going to probably tack that on. Look, they may find a way to equal it out, and I'm sure there will be one or two companies that'll keep the prices relatively the same, or just increase it $20 just to try to offset some of the rising costs of this CPU. And who knows why, right? Are the parts harder to get? Is the materials to actually make this CPU harder to get? We have no idea. That's insider info. I might try and look into that, but very interesting to know that the new Dimensity 9400, that's a big deal when it comes to Samsung, when it comes to Google. Well, Google's already signed, sealed, and delivered for TSMC, but OnePlus, right? Maybe if they don't put maybe in their OnePlus Nord, or what about nothing, right? Think of it for nothing. So if you're nothing, you don't want to put the new 8 Gen 4 because you're trying to you're trying to be an affordable flagship for the new Nothing Phone 3. Well, if you can get a CPU that's just as fast, basically, as the best Android phone that's going to have this new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. However, you're going to pay last year's prices for a nearly identical to the 8 Gen 3. I bet nothing might put this MediaTek chip inside the Nothing Phone 3. Because when they came out with the Nothing Phone 2, when that was released, that had, at that time, they put in last year's, at that time, the year before that, flagship CPU, which was the Snapdragon 8 Gen Plus 1. So if they do that same thing this year, they could probably either put the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, or they can put the beast of a CPU, the new MediaTek Dimensity 9400, in their device, and it will cost them the same as a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Plus, on benchmark testing, it'll be just as good as the S24 Ultra, as the S25 Ultra, as the OnePlus 13, all the latest and greatest flagship Android devices. So, I'm just saying, there's been no reports yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if nothing hits up MediaTek and tried to negotiate a deal to put this new Dimensity 9400 in the new Nothing Phone 3, which should be out in the first quarter of 2025. I have not seen any leaks or any rumors yet, but I'm expecting to see some before the end of the year. So here in the next 4 to 8, maybe 4, 6, 8 weeks, I'm expecting to see some sort of leak, some sort of rumor, and absolutely cannot wait. I'll be the first to jump on that device. Nothing, one of my favorite phone companies, phone manufacturers, so I cannot wait for that device to come out. Strongly, I would like to see them put that new Dimensity chip in there if it's the same cost as last year's flagship. So be on the lookout for that. Now, let's see what we got here. Got a couple left here. So I know the new iPhone 16 just came out. Sorry. I knew the new iPhone 16 just came out, but check this out. I love roadmaps. I like talking about future devices. I love talking about the business. I love the design. I love the business of cell phones. I love cell phones, mobile technology, everything about it. So there's a lot of tech channels out there that you're not going to hear this from, or they'll never discuss, but that's why you come here to eSIM Studios, because I love to discuss future devices and what the Apple's planning and the roadmaps of Google and planning for stuff. Check this out. iPhone 17 Pro could merge the action button with the volume buttons, possibly inspired by its own camera control hardware. Now, if you're looking at this picture and you're like, what the hell? That's not an iPhone 17, is it? Think again. So, if you watch this channel, we've discussed Apple's roadmap, and it's been on the point, on the mark. Probably 90% of the stuff that I've brought forward has been correct. Now, Apple eventually, if you see that hole punch there, Apple is eventually going to go with under-display camera sensors, selfie sensors, Face ID sensors, which means they're going to not necessarily get rid of the dynamic island, because they can make it an animation up there. So technically they can still have the dynamic island, but those cameras that are under the little elongated pill is just going to be one dot. And remember, they're going to go with one dot for a year, and then they're going to go with under the display. So we're thinking they're going to move to the single hole punch next year in the iPhone 17 series. And then the iPhone 18 series on their Apple roadmap in the future is when they're going to go fully under display, meaning no hole punch, nothing. Under the display for the iPhone 18 series. Now, iPhone 16 series were just released, yes. But if you're Apple, you're already testing iPhone 17 devices. Now, actually, they've been testing these for quite a while, right? It's not like, oh, we just released iPhone 16. Okay, let's work on iPhone 17. No. they've been working on iPhone 17 for probably 2 years already, right? So all this stuff takes for a cell phone to plan, R&D, brainstorm, kind of think of a direction you want to go. You're planning this 2 to 3 years before it's next up, meaning this iPhone 17 Pro is next up, meaning the previous model's been released and the 17 series is the next one up, basically, to be released. They're planning this 2-3 years in advance. So it's very interesting to see. We were right on the action button. We were right on I'm trying to think of what I was not right on. It was the new rounded design of the iPhone 16 series. I think we had reported on the iPhone a little different design. Not the cameras, but the actual sides was good. I thought they were going to be a little more rounded, but this just goes to show you that they're testing everything. So apparently somebody's gotten word from inside Apple, hell yeah, we're testing this and we're testing that, and man, you know, whatever. But this is the story that came out, and they're trying to tweak their phones a little bit. Now, remember, iPhone 17, going to be introduction of the new iPhone 17 Air. So you're going to have a 17, 17 Air, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max. And then in the iPhone 18, that's when they're supposed to go all display, no hole punch. And don't forget the biggest news. That's when they're going to release the iPhone Flip. That's when they're planning on releasing the iPhone Flip. So it would be badass if they had an iPhone Flip with no hole punch, nothing, just all display. And remember, they patented their hinge that creates a zero crease when it's unfolded. So it's a complete flat plane. Unlike Samsung, which still has a minor crease. It's getting better through the years, but it's still there. I think they would knock it out of the park. And these are little things. So you'll see them. Look, I know they've been on this design for a while, and I do give them, make fun of them quite a bit. But I kind of struggle with making fun of them, but then I get it, right? Because what would they get more flack for? Would they get more flack if they keep the same design the next few years of what the iPhone looks right now over the next few years? Or would they get more flack if they made a drastic design change and made it look completely different? They would get blasted if they made a completely different iPhone. I'm talking about the way it looks, where the cameras are on the back, stuff like that. So, I get it. It actually does look good. So it's well, why change something if it's not broken, right? Don't change something. Don't fix something if it's not broken. I get it, but hell, they've been on this for what? Since the 11, and it looks like the 17 probably going to be about the same until iPhone 18 is when they're supposed to get a drastic design change. Now you're going to see the 17 Air, which is a razor thin phone, but you're still going to have the classic iPhone 17, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, which will look like the 16 Pro, 16 Pro Max right now. The 18 is where you're probably going to see more design change. So you'll have an 18, assuming it's a hit, which I'm sure it will be. You'll see an 18 Air, you'll see an 18 Flip, and then they'll do a big phone, small phone. So very interesting to see where this goes. Samsung, as you can tell, is changing it up slightly. With their rounded design. Nothing is probably going to have the more drastic change, although I don't think it's going to be a huge change. But you see these smartphone companies kind of get settled into their design. Consumers get used to these phones. They like these phones. That's why they buy them. And then these manufacturers kind of get not scared, but kind of get weary of changing something too much to shun customers away or have customers select another device. But we did get the news here. iPhone 17 Pro could merge the action button with the volume buttons, possibly inspired by its own camera control hardware. So you'll have different touch sensitivities for each one. I'm pretty anxious to get ours in. Like I said, Gotta wait another few weeks, but I was gonna go see if I can get one this afternoon, but I'm sure it'll be gone by the time I'm done here. But it's interesting seeing them applying that same camera, that dedicated camera button, possibly to other areas with the action button, with the volume buttons. There was a report that they were going to have a buttonless iPhone, meaning no buttons whatsoever, no, just a solid unibody of display and back, right? No buttons. It was going to be like a touch oriented, depending on how hard you touch the side of a phone, the volume will go up, power will go on. And then there was even a report that I doubt we'll see come to fruition, but there was a report that this buttonless iPhone was not even going to have a charging port. You were just going to wirelessly charge it, which I think is stupid, but shit, I don't know. 20 years may be like that, you know? I have no idea, but let's see here. I'm basically running out of time, but Samsung's new 3 nanometer, man, these ads are serious. So here's something I wanted to get into, right? And this kind of hits home for me a little bit. Can y'all still hear? What's going on, Daniel? I think my browser quit. Yeah, y'all got me. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, so, excuse me, I called around today, Daniel, and I got on the Apple website, and there's a couple, there's a couple in town, but I was like, well, shit, I got to do a live stream. Should I do live stream, or should I go pick up this iPhone? You know, buy it online real quick and then go pick it up. And I was like, well, if I buy it right now, I'm going to be occupied with the phone. I'm not going to be able to get to the stream. So like, well, let me just risk it. I said, I can always buy one tonight. Like you said, I'll check it, you know, midnight or something. If I miss out today. So there's a couple. There's one at the couple at the Apple store, and then there's a couple at a T-Mobile store. Not the color or size variant that I wanted. So I'm kind of like, So I still have them coming, but it's October 22nd. Like it keeps on getting pushed back, so I don't know why. We'll see when this is done, but I wanted to get this stream in. Look at this real quick. So Samsung has major issues. For those of y'all that don't know, I'm not too far from Austin. Samsung purchased off of Highway 130, which is a toll road. So there's in San Antonio where I'm at. You can get to Austin, obviously, by going up I-35, right? I'm 45 minutes away from Austin. They built this new toll road about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. No, it's not I-30, it's 130. It's a toll road. Now, you got to pay for it, but it's real nice. You can go, you can fly 100 miles an hour. There's no cops. Up to Austin, and it takes me 30 minutes. Well, Samsung, a couple years ago, purchased a ginormous, next to the Tesla plant, in Austin. It's actually off of 130, the toll road on the southeast side of Austin, next to where Tesla built their I don't know, Model 3. I don't know what cars they're building there. Their Texas plant. Right next to that, Samsung purchased a ginormous amount of acres, and this is a couple years ago, and they were building a chip factory. They were going to manufacture CPUs here in Austin, right? It was huge news, big for the economy. Texas gave them all sorts of tax credits, but it's really not going that well. So check out this new report. Samsung was building this new chip, man. This is not the Austin location, I don't believe. It's probably in Korea. But the one here, the one that this story is about. So Samsung is supposed to manufacture their 3 nanometer GAA technology. just at this Southeast Austin manufacturing plant. Now, a lot can happen in 3 years, right? And a lot has happened in 3 years. 3 years in the tech world is like 6 years, honestly, in any other world. Everything moves so fast. Samsung has fallen behind. Now, we've reported that they're only getting about a 20% yield on the wafers of these chips. That's why they call them chips, because they manufacture these CPUs on a huge disk, maybe a 3 diameter disk, and it's got CPUs on it, right? But it's the success rate. Not every single wafer that has these CPUs manufactured on it, not every single one meets their QA, quality assurance, quality control, right? Now, just to give you a quick knowledge of just how much Samsung is behind. Samsung is only at this plant. I believe it was in construction, and it was so bad. Check this out. Excuse me for stumbling over my words. I have not been keeping up with this story, kind of, but not really. So they haven't officially completed the plant. They were going to bring the 3 nanometer CPU manufacturing business there, but they're only yielding 20%. So 2 out of every 10 wafers that has all these CPUs on them, 2 out of every 10 are good to go, meaning they can cut them, they can take those CPUs and actually put them in a device, right? Only 20% of what they're manufacturing is good to put in devices. That is horrible, because for comparison, the world's best CPU manufacturer, TSMC, is getting about an 80% yield, meaning 8 out of every 10 wafers they manufacture with all these little CPUs on them are good to go. And that's not good enough. And for one thing, it'd be one thing if they kind of got into a manufacturing rut and figure it out, we'll get it back together. But the other thing is, nobody wants to use a Samsung CPU. Nobody wants to put a Exynos CPU in their device. Google is not struggling. Google could not get away from Exynos CPUs fast enough. Thank God their last one and these Pixels are good. But they've traditionally overheated, and they traditionally have not been as powerful as other flagship CPUs, and they tend to generate a lot of heat, which gets your device hot, and your battery life goes down. Now, forecasters are saying Samsung is going to forfeit. Samsung is going to give up completing this manufacturing plant, which is a $385 million loss. I don't know what they're going to do with it. They still bought the land. They're still, I think, almost done with the buildings where it'll get built out, kind of looking like a manufacturing plant. But they're going to give up on it. They're going to change their plans, which basically means they invested so far $385 million into this project, and it's going down the drain. Simply because new customers. So Samsung has failed to attract new customers because of unstable yields. Only 20% is actually hitting devices that they produce, and they're not even that good to begin with. So you can see what a rut this is for Samsung. I don't know what they're going to do for the future. Failing to make a mark in the foundry business means that Samsung has garnered a measly 11.5% market share compared to TSMC, which dominates the sector. Now, let's get into TSMC. An absolute... whatever they plan to do with that, I'll let you know. I'm not sure many of y'all have interest, but it is something. So Samsung may have to give up their CPU business. I have no idea. But let's get into TSMC. TSMC is so good at manufacturing CPUs that the tech minister, or the minister there in Taiwan, somebody associated with the government of Taiwan and TSMC, is claiming that they're so good, they are 10 years ahead of China because of their 2 nanometer tech. 2 nanometer means the node, right? So look at this wafer. So that's what I was talking about right here. So they produce this is a wafer. That's why they get the name chips. And you can see each CPU. So there's what, probably 70 CPUs in that one wafer. So remember, Samsung's only producing 20% that are good, meaning that they can actually put in devices and they have to throw away the other 8 out of 10. TSMC is doing the opposite. TSMC is so good at it. Now they're on 2 nanometer. They're 80%, 8 out of 10 are good, and that they put in devices, and 20%, who knows what they do with them. But their technology, it's not just their high yield rate. The technology, how they manufacture these, how they pack these, is world renowned. Nobody else does it. They actually have a process that's patented, and the TSMC tech minister says they're 10 years ahead of China. So China has desperately been trying to get into the CPU world, the chip manufacturing world. Now, not much knowledge, not much information has come out of China in regards to their manufacturing process, what they're being put in, what they're being used for. I wouldn't use a Chinese CPU if you paid me, right? If China came to me next year and said, hey, I'll pay you $1 million. I'll give you 120 grand per month, or 100 grand per month. If we'll sponsor eSIM Studios, but I want you to use this Xiaomi, the new Xiaomi 15, and we're gonna put a China CPU in there. We want to be your sponsor. I would say hell no. I wouldn't try to touch that with a 10-foot pole, let alone put my account in there and put all my apps on there. No, I'm not doing it. And I don't think the rest of the world will either. That's why I don't think China's chip-making endeavors are going to succeed. Nobody trusts China for anything. They're going to embed it with all sorts of spyware, malware, and they're probably gonna, one day they try and take over the world, they'll probably, after stealing all your information for the last 6 months, they'll just end up shut down your phone. And I'm sure they'll steal all your money before they do that. But let's see here. TSMC, let's see here. So a nanometer. Well, I won't go down the whole entire manufacturing process. It is a lengthy, and it's not hard to explain, but it is hard to, I would love to go, absolutely love to go tour. I would love to go to Taiwan and tour their facilities. I know they essentially have something like that where you can tour. I've seen some tech channels do that. Man, you know what? I might try and do that. Not saying this year, next year, but I might look into that, honestly, and see if I can go tour. That would be so much fun. See how everything's made, make a video about it. And look, their TSMC's 7 nanometer chip manufacturing process technology first entered in mass production in 2018. Now progressing to 2 nanometers since then, the pace of evolution in semiconductor manufacturing is not linear if the chip manufacturers do not have access to the same machines. So the way that they make them is very special. Now they're probably going to get settled in on 2 nanometer. Now they're because every year, like going back to 2018 when they introduced a 7 nanometer node, that just tells you another way to measure how big it is, right? Nanometer is a measurement, obviously, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller every year. So it went from 7 nanometers in 2018 to 6 nanometers in 2019 to 5 nanometers in 2020, and then it continues to go smaller and smaller and smaller. But you can't go down all the way to 0. You won't have a CPU. So that's basically I think where we're at now. And even because if they could have gone down to 1 nanometer, look, I'm sure they've tested everything, and I'm sure they've tried to get one. I'm sure they've tested 1 nanometer nodes. Again, you can't go down to 0 because there would be nothing. But I think they've settled in on 2 nanometers. I think that's where we're going to settle, at least for the near future. I say future, maybe next couple years. But they're already on their second generation 2 nanometer node. So they've already produced a 2 nanometer, which is in many flagship CPUs right now. But I believe they're on this 8 Gen 4 will be on the second gen of the 2 nanometer. So it's going to be even more powerful and even more power efficient while continuing on the same size node. So I've actually, side note, I've actually been looking into buying and stocking them. They're that much more advanced than any other manufacturer, CPU manufacturer in the world. And as more older people die off, you have more younger people being born. And over the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to have the CPU demand is going to get more and is going to get greater and greater and greater. And they're just leaps and bounds ahead of everybody. I don't see anybody that can, at least in the foreseeable future, that can catch up with them as far as they are spot on what they do. They are the absolute best in the world. Now, MediaTek, look, it looks like they're putting together some fantastic CPUs. Samsung's fallen off a cliff. Who else manufactures? Actually, you know what? I'm stupid. I think MediaTek CPUs are manufactured by TSMC. I'm thinking of manufacturer. There's TSMC, there's Samsung, and China is trying to manufacture. And if I'm missing a CPU manufacturer actually who puts them together, please leave a comment. Because at the moment they don't have any competition, right? So, in my opinion, I think it would be a good investment. Don't take my advice. This is not financial advice, but I have been looking into it the last 3 to 4 days. I think I'm going to make a minor investment into them. I just don't see the demand getting any smaller for them. In fact, I believe it's going to be the opposite. It's going to continue to grow higher and higher and higher. Now, to end this live stream, one quick story that really bugs me. Speaking of Samsung, and I want to get your opinion too, and I think I have the pulse on most people's opinion on this. So if you're not familiar, Samsung One UI 7, which has been delayed for a while, was supposed to be, when it was first announced, it was supposed to hit our devices already. It's been delayed. So this One UI 7 is supposed to be the biggest change for Samsung user interface, graphical user interface ever, right? Even biggest upgrade since even a bigger upgrade in the way it looks and feels than when TouchWiz turned into One UI. Do you remember that? TouchWiz, what was it on, like the Samsung, was it the S5 or S6? I think it had TouchWiz. And then when the S7, I think it was, no, it was S7. I think going into S8 is when they started One UI. Something like that. It's even a bigger change than that. So they're going to totally revamp animations. They're going to revamp basically everything. The code, apps, app drawers. They're going to have a scrollable app drawer up and down instead of side to side. But it looks like a really cool operating system. But there's one major issue that really bugs me, and I know it bothers a lot of people. So it appears that Samsung is going to copy Apple, unfortunately, copy iOS, and not just a little bit. It looks like they're going to copy them a lot, which I do not like, because it just incurs more people to make fun of Android, more people to make fun of Samsung. It just generates more laughter and more trolling from Apple fanboys to shit on Samsung, right? And I love Samsung phones. I use them. I have a Samsung phone in my possession for years. But I'm not happy about this. So their Samsung Gallery, here we're looking at the new S23 Ultra, the new Samsung Gallery app. You know how Samsung Gallery has the kind of flower, is it a flower looking animation? Well, look at this. Look at this. So One UI 6.1.1, which we're on right now, has the gallery app on the left. Samsung One UI 7 gallery app is going to have the icon on the right, which is exactly identical to Apple to iOS gallery app. You could have picked any other design in the world. You could have even had my head on there, right? You could have a picture of a squirrel. Anything except Apple's gallery icon. What are you doing? Now, I hope Samsung CEO steps in, because when Samsung released the new Galaxy Buds 3, he was apparently very upset that essentially they look like AirPods. The charging case, how you open them, they're the stem design. They look pretty damn similar. Now they do have one slight difference, where instead of on the stem, instead of it being a cylinder that comes down on the stem out of the earbud, it's actually like a triangle design. But if you look at them in a certain way, they look identical, right? Just a little different color, that gray, black, but they have white ones. The base Buds 3 and Buds 3 Pro look very, very similar to Apple. There was a story that came out last month that Samsung CEO was livid, was very upset. In fact, was raising his voice and, from what I read, cursing people out in a boardroom meeting. And so Samsung has many divisions, right? They make washing machines, refrigerators, they make vacuums, air freshener, air filters, phones, obviously. So each Samsung they have a mobile division. They have a houseware division. They have an accessories division. And then like Samsung mobile division has a head of the mobile division, and then he oversees everything underneath him in the mobile division. But he has to answer, head of the mobile division has to answer to the head of Samsung. How the Samsung CEO was not briefed before the release of these products that they copied Apple on, how they could just push those to get manufactured and approved and put for sale without the Samsung CEO even seeing them, blows my mind. Because this story came out that he was very upset at them copying Apple after these buds were released. And the watch, it was the Watch Ultra. He was upset at the Watch Ultra. Which tells me, if the story comes out weeks after the devices are launched, that tells me he had no idea what these looked like. And this story only came out when he found out what they look like, when we found out what they look like. How is that even possible? And I pray to God that he changed something internally and says, all right, well, you have to run it through me every time we release something or do a major update or approve something. I have to give you the seal of approval instead of just pushing it through. Because when he sees this, he's going to flip shit. I mean, it's not just the gallery icon. The camera app, it looks just like Apple, just like the iPhone. What was it? Do I have photos? Check this out. Let's do a real quick search and I got to get out of here. The iPhone's definitely going to be sold by the time I'm over. What is it? One UI 7. So let's look at this. Images. So let me bring you over here. So Google One UI 7. I don't want iOS. I want 7. So we can look at this. So look at this. Look at this insane icon pack. Wait, this is on Samsung's website? Shit. God damn it. Look at this. Now you tell me, does that not look like Apple? Does that not look like an iPhone? So you have the camera app that looks like the iPhone camera app. You have the settings app, which looks like the iPhone settings app. I don't know what what does Apple use as their browser? What is it called? Safari? Does that look like Safari? Contacts looks just like the Apple icon. Weather, I think, looks just like the Apple icon. It blows my mind. Gallery looks pretty similar to the Apple icon. Phone looks exactly like the Apple icon. Clock looks pretty similar. Like, what are we doing? You couldn't pick any other icon, right? It couldn't be any more clear you're trying to copy Apple. And this is on Samsung's website, samsung.com. Anyways, I cannot believe this shit. Look at this. So we got, here's One UI 7. It's going to have new battery indicator, vertical app drawer, dark mode icons, Apple, dark mode period, smooth animations, create your own Galaxy avatar, Apple. Actually, I think Samsung came out with that first, but Apple made it popular. New home screen customizations, redesigned app icons, Apple. Galaxy AI is more advanced than ever. Beta early August. New lock screen customizations. Even the flashlight looks like Apple. Biggest change to One UI ever. Yeah, because you're going to turn it into a you're going to turn it into a iPhone icon pack or theme. That's basically what it is. Separate notification and quick settings for clutter-free experience. Jesus Christ. Well, I know I'll be installing a theme once my One UI 7 gets in. Just absolutely insane. Blows my mind that they're just letting this fly. Anyways, we'll leave it there. When does the OnePlus 13? Well, you know, it's supposed to be later this month. I think it was for... Let's find out. They changed it recently. It's going to be mid to late October. 8 Gen 4 is supposed to be announced on the 12th, I think, or 13th, something like that. And then you're going to see, basically, a few days later, OnePlus will announce and or have a launch party. So 8 Gen 4 announcement in a week and a half, and then you'll get OnePlus 13 in 2 to 3 weeks. So it's just literally right around the corner. I don't think there is a, unless something just came out, I don't think there's a official launch time, but it is going to be a couple weeks away. Okay, let's see. I don't have anything official on the launch date, but it'll be right around the corner. So make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we're definitely going to cover that. I'm definitely going to get that phone. So and we'll have a launch party for that whenever it's launched. Come here. Well, I think OnePlus allows me to restream their channel. So come over here. We'll discuss it, and let me know if you got one. I'm definitely going to get one. And Android fans shall rejoice. But that'll do it for today. eSIM Studios obviously went way over on my time, but I got 8 stories today, so appreciate it. We will definitely be back tomorrow, and you never know, I might just have an iPhone on tomorrow's episode, but I'm gonna go see if I can go grab one real quick. Appreciate the time. Please be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.